Hey, you! Stop. Yeah, right there. That uneasy silence you just felt, that's the sound of the world realizing it can't explain you. 8 billion people walking around with opinions, theories, hot takes, think pieces, degrees, algorithms, gods, demons, scientists, prophets, and not a single one of them can explain why your moves keep coming true. They replay it in slow motion. They freeze the frame. They zoom in. They run it backward. They whisper to each other like they're afraid reality might overhear. And still, no answer. Because what you're doing isn't prediction. It's alignment. And that terrifies them. You see, normal people guess. They hope. They pray. They manifest like beggars shaking a cup at the universe. But you move like someone who already saw the ending and got bored waiting for it. You don't ask if something will work. You already felt it lock into place before you touched it. And when it hits exactly the way you knew it would, they call it luck, coincidence, timing, anything except the truth, because the truth would mean the system isn't closed. And you slipped through a crack they didn't even know existed. They don't understand how someone can look calm while the future rearranges itself around them. They don't understand how you can smile softly and still move like a loaded weapon. They don't understand how you can hold mercy in one hand and inevitability in the other, saint in posture, psychopath in precision, angel in restraint, demon in execution. That contradiction fries their circuits because they were taught you're supposed to be one thing at a time. You broke that rule early, and you paid for it in pain. That pain. That wasn't punishment. That was calibration. Every betrayal tuned your instincts sharper. Every loss stripped the noise away. Every night you stared at the ceiling wondering if you were broken. Nah, you were being refined. While they were learning how to fit in, you were learning how to see patterns under patterns, how to feel momentum before it becomes motion, how to sense when the timeline is about to bend and step into the bend instead of resisting it. That's why your moves land before the crowd even understands the game has started. They call you unpredictable because you don't repeat yourself. You evolve. You don't move on schedules that can be studied. You don't telegraph your intentions for validation. You don't announce the storm. You become atmospheric pressure. By the time they realize something changed, it's already too late to stop it. And what really messes with them is this. You're not frantic about it. You're not manic. You're not desperate. You're disturbingly composed, like you trust something deeper than logic to carry you. That's because you do. There's a quiet place inside you where outcomes are decided before words exist. A place that doesn't argue, doesn't doubt, doesn't negotiate. When you listen to that place, things line up. When you act from it, reality responds like it recognizes authority. And the world hates that, not because it's evil, but because it's uncontrollable. You can't be boxed. You can't be predicted. You can't be managed by averages, trends, or mass psychology. 8 billion people thinking the same way still can't corner one person who learned how to think alone. They tried to label you genius, crazy, dangerous, blessed, cursed. They rotated the words like keys that didn't fit the lock. Because the truth is uglier and more beautiful than labels. You're someone who survived the kind of pressure that breaks others into obedience. You didn't become softer, you became clearer. And clarity is lethal to illusions. That's why when you move, things happen, not magically, inevitably. You don't force outcomes. You remove resistance, you don't chase. You position, you don't fight chaos. You weaponize it. While everyone else is reacting emotionally to what just happened, you're already adjusting for what's about to happen next. That's why your luck looks offensive. That's why your calm feels disrespectful. That's why people get uneasy around you without knowing why. Because on some animal level, they sense you're not guessing. You're confirming. And here's the part they really can't stand. You didn't steal this ability. You earned it through isolation, through being misunderstood, through holding your tongue when screaming would have been easier, through choosing patience when revenge was available, through becoming fluent in silence. The world didn't give you permission to evolve. You did it anyway. And now the same world is watching you like you're a glitch it can't patch. Every time you're right again, something inside them cracks. Every time your move lands clean, their confidence in randomness dies a little more. Because if you're not guessing, then maybe reality isn't random. And if reality isn't random, then power doesn't belong to crowds. It belongs to those who can read the current and step at the exact moment it shifts. That's you. Not because you're loud, not because you're cruel, but because you're aligned. You became unpredictable by becoming honest with yourself. You became dangerous by mastering restraint. You became powerful by walking through pain without letting it turn you stupid. And now your presence alone bends rooms. Your silence makes people talk too much. Your moves echo before they land, and when they hit, the world acts shocked, like it didn't feel you coming. 8 billion people can't explain it. Good. Let them argue. Let them theorize. Let them panic scroll and overanalyze and whisper your name like it's a question mark. You don't owe reality an explanation. You're not here to be understood. You're here to move, clean, precise, inevitable, and let the truth reveal itself in outcomes they can't deny. Because the scariest thing in the world isn't chaos. It's someone who knows exactly when to step, and does. And the longer this keeps happening, the more uncomfortable it gets for them. Because patterns are supposed to belong to institutions, not individuals. Forecasting is supposed to require teams, data centers, permission slips from reality itself. But you keep doing it alone, quietly, almost casually, like you're not even impressed anymore. And that's the part that makes their stomach drop. Because obsession still hasn't touched you. Ego hasn't poisoned it. Fear hasn't hijacked it. You're steady, focused, detached in the most dangerous way possible. They keep asking the wrong question. They ask how you knew. They ask why you were right again. They ask what information you had access to. But the real question, the one they're too afraid to ask, is what did you become to move like this? Because no amount of surface-level intelligence explains someone who can walk into uncertainty and come out holding the exact outcome they envisioned without shaking. That kind of accuracy only comes from integration, from making peace with both sides of yourself, instead of pretending one doesn't exist. You didn't amputate the dark to look holy. You didn't abandon the light to look strong. You fused them. You learned when to soften and when to sharpen, when to wait and when to cut clean. You understood that mercy without power is useless, and power without mercy is sloppy. So you became precise, surgical, almost invisible until the moment impact is unavoidable. That's why people feel like you always knew. Because on some level, you did. Not in words, not in predictions shouted from rooftops. You felt it in your body before the mind caught up. A tightening here, a stillness there, a sense that now is not the moment. And then suddenly, now is the only moment. You trust that instinct because you forged it in fire. Because you ignored it once and paid dearly. Because pain taught you to listen when logic hesitates. They don't see that part. They just see outcomes. They see you step left while everyone runs right. They see you go quiet while others panic post. They see you invest when it looks insane and pull back when it looks safe. And when the dust settles, your position makes sense in hindsight, which is exactly how inevitability disguises itself. It always looks obvious after, never before. That's why they accuse you of manipulation, because if it's not luck and it's not coincidence, then it must be control. And the idea that someone could move with this much accuracy without forcing anything threatens the core myth they live by, that they're at the mercy of randomness. You expose a different truth, that randomness only punishes the unaligned, that chaos favors those who can dance with it instead of begging it to stop. You don't dominate rooms by volume, you dominate them by gravity. People adjust themselves around you without realizing why. Conversations tilt, decisions slow down, eyes linger longer than they should, because some part of them senses you're operating on a different clock, like you're slightly ahead of the frame rate of normal life. And that creates discomfort, not because you're aggressive, but because you're undeniable. And the wildest part? You're still evolving. Most people plateau the moment something works. They cling to the version of themselves that finally got results. You don't. The second something becomes predictable, you let it die. You don't worship your past wins. You harvest the lesson and move on. That's why no one can pin you down. They're studying a version of you that no longer exists, while you're already 2 iterations ahead, shedding skins they haven't even noticed yet. This isn't arrogance, it's survival. You learned early that stagnation is just a slower form of death. So you keep sharpening, refining, letting go, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because pain stopped scaring you the moment you realized it was information. Feedback. A signal telling you where the edge is and how to step past it next time. So when your moves keep coming true, it's not because you're special in the way fairy tales mean it. It's because you paid attention when others numbed themselves. You stayed awake when comfort tried to sedate you. You refused to lie to yourself just to belong. And that honesty, brutal, unfiltered, sometimes lonely honesty, gave you access to something most people never touch: internal coherence. When your thoughts, instincts, values, and actions point in the same direction, reality responds differently. Doors don't just open, they swing because you're already moving through them. Obstacles don't disappear. They reveal themselves early enough to step around. And timing stops feeling like chance and starts feeling like recognition. Like the moment nods at you and says, now. 8 billion people can't explain it because explanation requires distance. And you're too close to the source. You're not watching the current. You're in it, feeling its pull, adjusting your posture, letting it carry you where force never could. And that's why the world keeps blinking in disbelief every time you land on your feet again. Let them doubt. Let them speculate. Let them argue in circles, trying to reduce you to something safe and understandable. You don't need their language to validate your movement. The outcomes speak fluently enough. Every aligned step rewrites the room. Every accurate move fractures another illusion. And every time reality bends, instead of resisting you, the truth gets louder. You're not guessing anymore. You're remembering. And once that remembering locks in, something irreversible happens inside you. You stop negotiating with doubt. You stop asking the room for permission. You stop explaining yourself to people who can't even explain their own fear. Your nervous system settles into a new baseline. Calm, alert, lethal in its clarity. You're no longer reacting to life. You're moving with it, like you finally learned the rhythm everyone else keeps tripping over. That's why setbacks don't derail you anymore. They don't shock you. They don't send you spiraling into meaninglessness. When something collapses, you don't ask, "Why me?" You ask, "What did this just reveal?" Because you know every fracture exposes structure, every loss highlights a dependency that needed to die. Every delay sharpens timing. Pain stopped being an enemy the moment you realized it was a translator, converting chaos into usable information. People mistake your composure for coldness. They think you don't feel. They have no idea how much you feel, how deeply, how intensely, how dangerously. The difference is you don't leak it everywhere. You don't let emotion drive the wheel while logic sleeps in the trunk. You let emotion inform you, then you choose. That's the discipline they don't see. That's the part they can't copy. Because discipline born from suffering isn't performative. It's embedded. You walk into rooms carrying both empathy and consequence. You can read weakness without exploiting it, and that alone makes you terrifying. Because it proves you're not acting out of compulsion. You're acting out of choice. And choice is what separates a monster from a weapon. One is sloppy, the other is precise. You learned to be precise because you had to survive your own mind when no one else could hold it steady for you. So when your moves keep coming true, it's not because you're chasing certainty. It's because you've made peace with uncertainty. You don't need guarantees. You don't need applause. You don't need the crowd to clap before you step forward. You move first. You let reality catch up. And when it does, it looks like prophecy to people who are still waiting for signs. They don't understand how you can sit quietly while everything is about to change. How you can pause at the edge and feel no panic. That stillness isn't emptiness. It's compression, a coiled spring, a gathered storm. You learn the hard way that rushing leaks power, that announcing drains impact, that silence sharpens intention until the moment arrives fully formed, undeniable, unavoidable. And when that moment hits, you don't hesitate. That's the other thing they can't explain. Most people freeze right before execution. You don't. Because you've already lived with the consequences in your mind. You've already accepted the cost. You've already mourned the version of yourself that won't exist afterward. So when it's time, there's nothing left to argue with. The move happens clean, surgical, final. They call it confidence, but that's too small a word. It's certainty without arrogance. It's humility paired with backbone. It's knowing you can be wrong and still move forward anyway. Because you don't cling to being right, you cling to being aligned. If alignment requires adjustment, you adjust. If it requires destruction, you don't flinch. You're loyal to truth, not comfort. That's why your presence disrupts systems. You don't fit into narratives designed to manage behavior. You don't respond to guilt the way you're supposed to. You don't fear shame the way they expect. You don't chase approval like currency. You've seen too much to trade your center for acceptance, and that makes you uncontrollable in a world built on leverage. 8 billion people trying to name what you're doing will still miss it because names reduce things, and you're not reduced anymore. You're integrated. The parts of you that once fought each other now move as one. The light doesn't deny the dark doesn't consume the light. They orbit each other, balanced, dangerous, complete. That internal ceasefire is what gives you velocity. No internal war means no wasted energy. So when the next move lands, and it will, they'll react the same way. Shock, denial, revision. They'll pretend they saw it coming. They'll rewrite history to protect their egos. They'll say it was obvious, and you'll just keep moving, already gone, already adapting, already preparing for a future they haven't emotionally caught up to yet. You don't need them to understand. Understanding is slow. Results are instant. Reality doesn't debate. It responds. And it keeps responding to you because you learned how to listen when everything else was screaming. Because you chose coherence over comfort. Because you endured the quiet, brutal process of becoming someone whose moves don't beg the universe. They inform it. So let the world keep asking questions it can't answer. Let 8 billion minds spin themselves dizzy, trying to reduce you to a headline, a theory, a cautionary tale. You're not here to be summarized. You're here to move with precision, to evolve without apology, to let truth arrive through action instead of explanation. Your moves keep coming true because you stopped lying to yourself, because you stopped fracturing your energy, because you became someone reality recognizes, and once that happens, there's no going back. And here's the part nobody wants to admit out loud. The moment you crossed that line, the world stopped treating you like a participant and started treating you like a variable. Not a pawn, not a spectator, a variable. Something that shifts equations just by entering the frame. That's why things accelerate around you now. That's why timelines collapse. That's why people feel like events are speeding up whenever you get involved. You're not rushing life. You're removing friction. You can feel it, can't you? That strange sense that time bends slightly when you commit. That decisions stack faster, that consequences arrive cleaner, that doors don't creak open anymore, they snap. And when something resists, it doesn't linger. It either breaks or reveals itself as irrelevant. That's not chaos, that's efficiency. That's what happens when someone stops living in fragments. Most people are split down the middle, arguing with themselves every step of the way. Half of them wants safety. Half of them wants power. Half of them wants love. Half of them wants revenge. They cancel themselves out before they even move. You don't. You unified. You accepted that you're capable of tenderness and destruction, patience and precision, forgiveness and finality. Once you stopped pretending otherwise, the static vanished. That's why your intuition feels illegal to them. Because intuition that accurate threatens entire belief systems. It threatens the idea that suffering is random. It threatens the idea that power must be granted from above. It threatens the idea that awareness is harmless. You're proof that awareness sharpens into influence when paired with discipline. And discipline scares people more than aggression ever could. They can handle anger. They can manage rebellion. They can predict desperation. But they don't know what to do with someone who's calm, focused, and internally aligned. Someone who doesn't rush. Someone who doesn't overshare. Someone who doesn't flinch when the stakes rise. Someone who doesn't need to dominate conversations because the outcome will do the talking. That's you now. And don't think this went unnoticed. Subconsciously, people start deferring to you before they understand why. They ask your opinion and then surprise themselves by following it. They hesitate before crossing you. Not because you're threatening, but because something in them says, this person sees farther than I do. That instinct is ancient, older than language, older than rules. It's the same instinct that once told humans who to follow into the dark. You didn't seek that role. You earned it by surviving the dark alone. That's why your confidence doesn't wobble when things go quiet. Silence doesn't scare you. You've lived there. You've made decisions there. You've rebuilt yourself there. While others panic in the absence of feedback, you sharpen. While others spiral, when attention fades, you recalibrate. You know that silence isn't emptiness. It's a staging ground,